To the flag of the United States of America. I want to welcome all our guests tonight, and say on the front end, we're going to at least make a goal to keep this one shorter than normal because we have some health issues that we need to be mindful of. I'm not going to go into anybody's private health issues, but still we wanted to have a meeting. Ask you to do our best to keep it brief and fast. And I'm as guilty as anybody, so I'm going to try to take my own advice. But I want to welcome KJIW, Helena-West World. He usually joins by Zoom. Anybody else on Zoom? And our guests here tonight. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Denton. Here. Columbia.
Here.
Crockett. Franklin.
Here.
Etherly.
Here.
Forward.
Here.
5 present, 1 absent.
So we want to start with our guests tonight. We had you on the agenda last time, and there was some mixed up communication. So we're glad to have you. And I want to ask you if you would. We usually address the council from the podium here. You can both come up at the same time if you want. And you're here to talk about our compliance or lack of compliance in the water and sewer department. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to ask you to come to the podium, state your name, position, and then you're recognized.
Hello, my name is Robin Michaels, and I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. The main reason I'm here is the 2 water systems, West Helena and Helena, are way behind in their compliance as far as getting a licensed operator. I don't know what the problem is or the holdup is, but I've spoken to Jeff Patterson, who is, I believe, your chief water operator for both water systems. And apparently there's a little bit of a problem of getting him the training that he needs. And he needs that training so he can actually sit for the 2 exams that he needs to sit for, so that the 2 water systems can be back into compliance. I have some handouts that will show you a list of the violations that there are, and it's a penalty calculation, and it will it'll show you how much money the 2 water systems are currently if this were to be brought to a hearing, this is the money that the health department may seek.
Well, while we're doing that, I just want to mention that our city attorney, Mr. Valley, had a conflict tonight, and Mr. Turner, our city treasurer, had a loss in the family very close to him, and we send out our prayers and our sympathies to Mr. Turner, but that is why he is absent tonight. I just wanted to make that clear to the viewers. So go ahead and resume.
Okay. Let's start with Helena, the Helena water system. It should be right here. You should be able to see it on this violation summary. I want to direct you to page 5, which is the calculation of the penalty that the Board of Health may seek if we have to bring you to a hearing. Now, I had to do some recalculations. So that number 156,200 is actually 153,200. There was 2 violations for June and July that were returned to compliance back in September of 2021. So I have removed those violations. Is that any questions about that? Yes, sir. For Helena, it's 153,200. Yes, sir. That's for Helena, yes. It's, that one had no corrections. So if you go to the violation summary that says West Helena,
Oh, I see. Okay.
the last page, page 6, if I may direct you to that, the calculated penalty is $310,800.
310,
Yes, sir.
800.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank
you.
Sure. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. What are these is our water unsafe to drink?
Oh, no, sir. Your water is perfectly fine. The problem is you're not meeting the state licensing regulations.
Oh, the licensing.
Yes,
regulations.
sir. Yes. Your water operator, Mr. Patterson, is required to hold a, I think it's a distribution 4 and a treatment 3 for Helena.
Yes.
Okay. And then he needs the same license for West Helena also, but he hasn't made any progress as far as getting those licenses. And that's why we have to keep issuing these violations. Also, too, when you have this violation, it just adds more to your total. And then there's a public notice you're required to do. And if the public notice doesn't get completed, that adds on to your total also, because that's another violation.
One person not having the licensing, right?
If you have more than one person employed at the water department, it would be best if you were to get several of them trained and licensed to that level that is required for both water systems.
Right. So this is not an issue for the council. This is an administrative issue, because we don't handle, we've been told and we have respected, we don't handle day-to-day operation. The mayor does. So we can't hire anybody or fire anybody. Mr. Patterson did inform us that he did not pass his test. It's been almost 8-9 months ago. The administration would have to hire somebody who has those licenses and have to promote somebody in that department. I think this is kind of going, I mean, it's not for us to, I thank you for it's on the water bills that we're receiving. We have no licensed operator. So this to us is no new news, but it has to go, and not disrespectful. It has to go to the mayor. The mayor has to get a department head, a water manager with those licenses. We had one, unfortunately, he was fired, and we don't know why, but unfortunately that falls back on day-to-day operation, that the mayor would have to get somebody in here to do that. We're here to listen though. We can't make any decisions. He can.
What I'm trying to get across is that the entire city
Right.
is going to be responsible for these penalties.
Yes, ma'am.
if the problem is not resolved. Now, that includes all administrative, city council. Now, if it's a matter of money to get these folks trained, then that's all on you. Because
Right.
I cannot force the city to outspend funds to get a water license or a water operator license properly. All I can do is to stand here and let you know that this will come to the Board of Health.
Yes, ma'am.
And then that's where I'm going to present my case,
yes, ma'am.
and the Board of Health will be asking whomever comes to the hearing there in Little Rock, why have you not been able to get these operators licensed properly?
Yes, ma'am. We have a budget set in place that the mayor gets to choose his department head. We put a salary in the budget. The mayor could either demote Mr. Patterson and put a search for a new water manager with those licenses. But at this point, I'm willing to do whatever, but it's already been done. The mayor has to enforce the department head with those licenses, or the water department can do that. The mayor, they have the funds to get their person, whoever there is. But we had a person until about a year ago, if I'm not mistaken.
I guess the only thing that I can do is plead for the city council to work with the mayor.
Oh, no, ma'am. The plea for the city council. The mayor has the right to hire his department. The money is already put in the budget. So you're pleading to the wrong people. You plead to the mayor. The mayor does that. And it's no disrespect to you. I put a smile on your face because I'm just giving you the facts, ma'am.
I understand.
The mayor, let's go back to it. We appropriate funds. The mayor hires and fires his department head, which he fired a department head, which was the water mayor that had all the license. So Mr. Patterson stood right where you stand and said he failed. He flunked. He didn't pass. So the mayor should have decided that day to get somebody who can pass or get obtain those licenses. So it's not the city council. We're getting along. You should direct the mayor and say, Mayor, you have the right to hire whomever you choose, because this same person that's sitting there has told you he has failed. Am I right, Bobby?
If I may,
Hey, Mr.
if I may, I didn't want to jump your presentation, but I leaned over and I asked Ms. Davis, I said, why is she telling this to us? And this is what I want you to understand. It appears that you've been given a set of facts that may not be accurate. And I understand everything you're saying. I can understand the gravity of everything that you're saying. What Mr. Franklin is trying to convey to you is that we don't have the authority to hire anybody. We've never been told that there's a financial issue related to us hiring somebody with a license. So when you come to us, giving us this information, I'm sitting here processing this going, did you tell the mayor, the guy who has the Arkansas law doesn't give us hiring and firing authority over employees. So we didn't cause the situation. We didn't terminate the person with the license. We don't have the ability to hire a person, another person
Okay.
who has license.
All right, so what I'm understanding is that the city council's not going to
Raise
work
the
with the
salary.
mayor.
No, ma'am. See, that's it right there.
Right
Listen,
there.
you've come with a perspective that we won't work with the mayor. We're getting this information for the first time here tonight. You have a perspective on this that hasn't been presented to us. So while we hear your presentation,
My name's Glenn Greenway. I'm the engineer
but
supervisor.
if you don't mind, let me finish.
I'll let you finish, sir.
Let me
Just
finish.
Introduce myself.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. All I'm saying is we're hearing this and it's coming colored to us. It's coming to us as if we're not working with the mayor and all these violations.
Understood.
And let me finish my statement. It's coming to us as if there's some failure of the city council to do something that will remedy the problem. And we are getting the information right now at this meeting. We do not have control over day-to-day operations. If he has a presentation to make to us, then he can do it at any time. I'm just telling you, when you say we're not working with the mayor, everybody here at the table is going, what in the world are you talking about? Because nothing has been
Let
requested.
me explain our side.
Okay, go ahead.
We are not on the city council side. We are not after the city council. We are not after the mayor. We do not regulate the city council. We regulate the water systems. I don't care who hires them. We need a licensed operator or operators. We would prefer operators.
Yes, sir.
You have 12,000 people in this town,
Slightly less. but go ahead.
and most towns of 10 to 12,000 have half a dozen licensed operators and two usually that have the appropriate license. That's what we want. We're not here pointing the fingers at anybody. It's nobody's fault. Here's a problem. We need to fix it.
Yes, sir. We understand that.
And I don't want to drag y'all before the Board of Health.
Listen,
It's
listen,
just more work for us.
we understand that. Her language, her words, where you're refusing to, that's what she
Well,
said.
she said that.
We didn't put those words in her mouth. We came here and sat down and convened a meeting. Those were her words. And that's fine.
She's usually cooped up in an office and never gets to talk in front of people.
Ain't no excuse.
That's fine. That's fine.
I don't want to make you mad, but we just want to resolve the situation. And if nothing happens, the mayor and any council people that want to attend will be in front of a subcommittee of the Board of Health. It'll take 3 or 4 hours and the ruling will be the same. You have to hire a licensed operator or they're going to assess these penalties. I don't want to see that. It doesn't help anybody. We got to get a licensed operator hired.
And I understand your point, but we all in here, everybody gets a water bill. Everybody in here gets a water bill. And you know what's on the water bill? The same thing. It says the city was in violation.
Right.
We were fined. That's printed on the water bill every month. We have asked, when Mr. Patterson did not pass the water test, we thought the mayor would hire somebody. I cannot hire anybody. No one around this table can hire. All we do is at the end of the year, we put salaries into a budget. The mayor has to right to hire somebody if you so choose to right now, this day. He can hire him tomorrow. Right, all this can go away.
Right.
If he just, so he has to.
I understand that. And we're not saying that you're at fault. We're just pointing out the problem and we've got to rectify it.
If I could, if you'd suspend just a minute. I think, I'm trying to be mindful of our time. Let me say this, I've already authorized reopening the position for general manager, working with Mr. Patterson. Who has attempted to get licensed, and by his own admission, I didn't ask him to reveal that or anything. But by his own admission, he didn't get to the level he needed to get to. The fines that you're talking about have been waived, and you've been very patient with the city while we try to get our staff properly licensed. The Arkansas Rural Water Association has worked really well with us in trying to get not just our general manager, but all of our staff properly licensed. And I'm sorry you're kind of getting caught up in local stuff, but the bottom line, what I want you and the council to hear is when you called me and let me know about some of this, basically what I heard was you can't keep being waived. You've got to get somebody. When we opened the position, we had 2 applicants and we applied everywhere. All the trade journals, the Arkansas Rural Water, Municipal League, all the usual places, as well as local on our website and all the rest. We got 2 applicants. One had never even worked for a water department and had no licenses, and Mr. Patterson was the other. Mr. Patterson really did not want to do it. And I'm grateful that he agreed to do it until we could find someone who would agree to take the salary of $62,000, which sounds like a lot, but when you're running 2 systems and you're asked to be paid less than what it would, the average size customer base of ours, according to the Arkansas Rural Water Association, they're paid 70 something for one system and they have to do 2 distribution systems. So there are few people interested in coming here to work for that. I have asked and pleaded to make it more competitive. There's more history here, but there's no reason to bring all that up. Thank you for coming. I have agreed to I'm not sure if it's posted yet, but I have agreed to reopen the position. We have someone interested who is retired in another system and who wants to come back. And who has all the proper licenses. It'll be the first time since before I was mayor, we will have a general manager who has all the if that's the person that gets hired. And they're willing to work for that salary. And that's the first in a long time. So I feel like provided that person continues to be interested, or other people who have, the same kind of licenses, we'll have this problem resolved soon. Mr. Patterson is fully aware of that. He's actually cooperating and working with us, and is nearing retirement himself and plans to help with the transition. So thank you for being patient with our city while we try to get in compliance. We didn't get there. So now we're going to reopen the position. We're encouraged that there's somebody who's interested, who does, and there may be more than one, who has those requisite licenses, and we can be in compliance. And we appreciate the forbearance of the state. We take it very seriously, and I want to thank y'all for coming. And we'll be in touch. Hopefully, like I said, I've already approved it. I don't know if we've actually posted it or not, but the person who does the posting is away this week. But we discussed it about a week ago, and I think we owned it. We don't have a limited number of time, and most of these are just political talking points. That's where this is. We reopened the position. The council will have an opportunity to approve or deny the selection here that turns out to be. I hope we get more than 2 people, and I hope more than one person who has any license whatsoever. The person who was let go is let go for a number of reasons, one of which was they were not making our training available to our employees for further licensing. Mr. Patterson has done that, and our employees under him have taken advantage of those classes, have gotten licenses. They've moved up, and so that has improved. It's just that Mr. Patterson didn't quite get there himself. And like I said, it's been like this for a while. I think a lot of it is being competitive in a field that requires a lot of education and training. You have things like trigonometry on these tests today that you didn't have when a lot of general managers were grandfathered into the system. So if you're trying to take that test today, you have to deal with things like trigonometry that, even I would struggle with. And I've got a college degree and graduate work and all that. And I love math, but I would have to kind of go back and look at trigonometry before I took that test. So the standards have been increased dramatically, but the salaries, and that's not just here, everywhere, really haven't gone up with that. And so we have this sort of gap that we see in the pool of people who fit these descriptors, who are eligible for. But I think the good news is we have somebody interested, maybe more than one person who does fit the state requirements. I don't know how much time. The only question I would have is how much time do we have?
And that just depends on the director of engineering.
And Ms. Frank, I hate to interrupt you. Say something, make your point, but we do need to move on because we have.
He said that you all waive these.
We can't waive them. The Board of Health can waive them.
He just said they were waived.
Well, they haven't been assessed yet.
Okay.
Those are prospective penalties. If we come to a hearing, we'll go before the Board of Health subcommittee. You'll have a representative there. I'll be there. And what we normally do is waive the penalties for 6 months and give the water system another 6 months to comply. Because it don't do us any good to fine you $500,000. You're still without an operator. And that's not what we want. We want you to be in compliance.
So this is your first time ever coming to this city and not having a licensed operator?
No, I was here 3 years ago. And these penalties have been going, we came because we were asked.
Okay. So who asked you all
I think the mayor did.
I wanted to make sure you were adequately briefed on the situation.
that? What?
Yes, sir.
Mr. St. Columbia, then we really need to wrap up on this.
Let's go down there first.
I know, but we do need to keep it brief.
I'd like to thank the gentleman. This is the first time I personally have heard about
I
any
didn't
of
see
this.
your hand. I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand.
If you wish, we can copy
Ms. Ford.
the city council on all of our communications, if we get the appropriate names and addresses.
What do we sign? I can give you mine now, Ms. Ford.
I'll ask Ms. Ramsey to get you that.
Yeah, if you could just get that to us,
Just if I could get it from Ms. Ramsey later.
just email it to us.
Yes.
Ms.
And we
Ford,
will
I'm sorry,
copy.
I didn't see that your hand was raised. Ms. Ford.
It was, and I just wanted to make this comment that I know COVID caused some problems with hiring here nationally. But as long as I've sat here, we have not had a licensed operator. That has been one of the things that we talked about, even with as far as saying with the option or whatever, potential to gain a license, and we just leave it and we don't go back to it. But I'm glad and I hope that we follow through with this and that we do get a licensed operator and that we do some encouraging for the rest of the staff, even though they're working on it, but we encourage other people. I don't know if we could draw something up with incentives to help them be motivated to get a license, so we will have more than one person with licenses.
Ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Ford.
What a lot of water systems do is they tie raises to the level of license that they have.
We,
You have it,
We had each license that they get, we gave them a job.
you get a
The
bump.
administration changed it.
no, that hasn't been changed. It's still the case. Mr. Franklin, we're not here to discuss the budget. That has been the case and they have been incentivized. But Mr. Franklin, there hasn't been a licensed general manager. When I came here, there wasn't a licensed general manager. And then the next person that we hired would not help others get licensed and certified behind him. That was just one issue among many, but and then Mr. Patterson graciously agreed to step in because nobody else applied because the salary is at such a low level. It's non-competitive.
I understand your
And so I'm
difficulties.
grateful that now, even at that low salary, we have a couple of people that may be interested. So we are reopening it. I hope that we have a 10-day process. I'm not sure if the clock is ticking yet, but then there's about another week or so that they have to go through sort of a vetting, health and other background check. So maybe by this time next month, we'll be looking at a general manager who does have the proper licenses.
Well,
Mr. Patterson is agreed to work with the transition on that. We have worked closely with Arkansas Rural Water Association. And we have sent employees, including Mr. Patterson, and they have worked really well with us on continuing education and trying to get our employees. And as Ms. Ford properly pointed out, we're starting to forget about the pandemic, even though it's making a comeback. But it sucked at least a year and a half, if not 2 years, out of a lot of the stuff we're talking about. And so she's quite right about that. And y'all know that.
just keep us posted on your efforts. That's what'll help stave off a hearing, is let us know you're actually moving forward. And I know it's hard to hire people. I've been trying to hire an environmental specialist now for 6 months. We can't even get anybody to apply. And it's not just here, it's everywhere. We're looking for a certain degree, a certain experience, and we get 2 applications and either one of them are suitable. So it's not just there, it's everywhere.
Thank you for coming and we'll let you go. Especially our town guests, we want them to go first so you have time to get back. Again, thank you. Stay tuned. We'll get you those addresses and let's hope we are in compliance soon. Thank you. Thank you for everything
Thank
you
you.
do for us and for the
I
staff.
want to thank you and the city council for hearing me out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and y'all have a safe trip. Miss Roshana Farr with Together for Hope is here, and I asked you to come forward, and she's going to update. She asked to speak, and she's going to update the council about the summer programs. Ms. Farr, you're recognized.
Hello to the council. Want to thank you all for taking this opportunity to listen to us. I'm Rashawn Farr and this is Ms. Karen Williams, and I'm gonna let her do the talking. I'm just gonna back her up.
Good evening. As she said, I am Karen Williams and I am the Executive Director for Together for Hope, Arkansas. And I took over this position in March of this year. So it's fairly new. But normally Together for Hope has a 2-week camp, swim camp here in Helena. And I just found out that last week that this will be our 20th year celebration. So we want to celebrate with a bang, okay? And we need your help. First of all, we need the, I don't know, I'm presenting to you and let me know if I'm in the right place. But we need to see about getting the grass cut, make sure that it's presentable. And the camp starts July 11th, but we will have people coming in July 8th and 9th for pre-testing. I have over 100 and some applicants for the camp. And these are ages 3 to 12. We have an area at one of the churches for 3 to 5-year-olds. And then from 6 to 12, they'll be in the park, in the Helena Park. We want to make sure the area is clean and presentable because they use the tennis courts. It's kind of like we have Bible stories and then they have swimming lessons, but they rotate. So it's like a Christian sports camp. And again, it's from July 11th through 14th, Monday through Thursday. And then our closing celebration will be that Thursday evening. And also we would like to use the community center each evening for the meal from 5 to 9, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And our theme this year, we are better together. So the more help that we can get, the better we can be. So any questions, comments?
Any questions or comments
Oh.
from council?
Okay, one other thing, right? Hold that thought. But we also need to make sure we have porta potties and then the bathrooms that are over there. I'm not for sure how many we have, but if they could be in working condition as well. Okay.
Ms. Frank,
Ms. Williams.
Mhm.
I want to tell you, thank you so much for doing such a good job. I got just a couple of questions for you. The Armory, have you all spoken with the mayor with the Armory and porta potty? Have you spoken with the mayor about those things? What did he say?
That's why we're here.
Well, part of what he told us that he's willing to do whatever
Yeah.
he needed to help the camp be successful. He told us that porta potties are possible for us to get, and the community center as well.
That's why I just want to, because Mayor, are you all aware that you have Mr. Cannon in the community center? Have you had a conversation with him? I'm in agreement with everything that you all need, but I just don't want y'all to cross paths. The mayor, have you talked to Mr. Cannon, who runs the community center? Yeah.
Mr. Cannon doesn't run the community center, but he does use it.
Right. The next part of the city property, it didn't come through us as one of your bids that you made, right? Right. So my thing is, I wish that you had a talk with Mr. Cannon so these ladies can, because we can improve this. I'm 100% with the porta potties. You need to make sure that we're gonna pay for it. The treasurer not here, the clerk, you know, how can we pay for this? We can pay for this because I want y'all to have whatever y'all need, but I do wish that you would have a conversation with Mr. Cannon, so Mr. Cannon can be aware of what's going on, so it won't be a shock to these ladies who are in the blind because you all just need a facility, right? So I move. No, wait. You have to correct the issue, Mr. Cannon, so these two entities don't cross paths. You fix that, I got a motion. So you can have a conversation with Mr. Cannon. So
Mr. Franklin.
Wait, I wasn't finished.
Please finish.
After Ms. Karen and Ms. Williams and Ms. Farr said from 5 to 9, Monday through Thursday, just a week. Right. So if you could fix that, so Mr. Cannon, at the week of July 8th or July.
Okay.
So Mr. Cannon, are you in agreement with that? Okay, so my motion is to approve this permit. Mayor, you can do what you need to do with the porta potties.
I don't think that they have a permit.
Well, whatever they need.
I don't think they've asked for a permit. It's not going to require a street closing. They are just here to brief you on the program. We don't know exactly that it will cost over $5,000. We don't have a Parks and Recreation Department, as I've pointed out several times. It'd be nice if we did. It'd be nice let me finish, Mr. Farman. It would be nice if we had a budget, an adequate budget for Parks and Recreation and a director. However, having said that, if you'll recall, we talked about Mr. Cannon's use of the facility. Did you recall that in our conversation? And we did talk about coordinating with Mr. Cannon and how he was using it. And do y'all have a problem working together? Okay, so magically, the people in the community worked something out for themselves without our having to do it for them. And without a Parks and Recreation Department director or department period, it is difficult to try and deal with all the people involved, because we have a lot of parks and we're actually blessed to have so many parks. And I don't think they're adequately utilized. So having said that, so that issue is resolved. There's a motion on the table, although there's no permit to approve. So
I just want to make sure, my thing is, Mayor, and I'm proud of you. I truly am. When you said about this Parks and Recreation, Mayor, we have a park over there by Monica Davis' house, that the water leaks over there so bad, and the grass hadn't been cut over there in months. So we don't, you go to West Helena Park, the water in Memorial Seniors Park, you paid somebody to cut limb down, but there's still limbs over there that you paid somebody to cut that. Now I'm trying to be nice with you. Now let's watch what you're doing, because there are limbs in that park that are still, there's a baseball park. There's a baseball field back there that nobody hadn't cut since you've been here. But I'm willing to give Ms. Farr, Ms. Williams, and Ms. Cannon, whatever you all be, I'm in favor of it. As long as you do this part, you all, I'm happy to help. I'm glad you all decided to do, I hope the 20th celebration go with a bang, because my daughter is one of those ones that the school signed.
And I really think that porta potties probably won't exceed the spending limit. Renovating the bathroom facility at the baseball field, which is something we did talk about, probably would. And that's sort of what sparked me suggesting that you discuss this with the council, because I could see that ultimately definitely being over my spending limit. But I don't think the porta potties will be. Just make sure we don't drop the ball on that and we get those out there to you.
That was my next thing, because I know that when we met on the 19th of May, you told us about the bathrooms possibly getting fixed or whatever. But the thing is, we're over in the park area, and that's a long walk for them to move from where those benches and things are, from walking from there all the way over to the baseball field to use the bathroom. So we needed something that was closer. We do have the pool and the bathroom. Mr. Womack has been working very hard to get the pool center together. That's fine for the kids that's gonna be working at the pool doing that shift. But we also have kids that's gonna be all over that park, and we need to make sure that bathrooms are accessible for them. And also, one other thing that Ms. Karen forgot to mention was, we would like to have the police presence. They don't have to stay,
security.
but just come through the area every so often, because we have people that's coming from all over the United States, all over. And we want those people to feel safe here in our community. If the police can just show up, just, do a little round through there every so often, that will really make them feel a little bit comfortable with those kids out there, and keep maybe predators and all that kind of stuff away as well.
And give us those dates when.
July 11th through the 14th, but we're gonna just bag it up to July 8th and the 9th, because that's when we're gonna be doing the pre-testing at the actual pool. And with the community center, we need to know who you're gonna designate to make sure that the building is open and locked. And what's the deadline to make sure that the grass is cut and all of that stuff is available. So we'll know how to keep in contact with you all on that.
Our fire chief he keeps the key to that building.
Who did you say?
Our fire chief and our assistant chief.
But Mr.
Also,
Cannon
so that
said
there's
he
somebody
does.
that has it 24/7.
You're gonna be letting us.
To the swimming pool, yeah.
Of
course, to the
We already covered him.
And then
the pool part is already taken care of. We was worried about the getting in and out of the community center, because we have to feed all those volunteers every evening. A different church is responsible for feeding them, so we wanted to make sure they had a place, a designated place to come to be served.
There's some bathrooms near the tennis court.
Yes, it
Yes.
was a long time ago.
They're not
I
there.
remember it's a building sitting there. I don't know what's in that building anymore. But I remember
Okay.
at one time when there was a Parks and Recreation Department, I think that's Mr. O'Shea Burrell was over it. He had those bathrooms up and running at that time. But I don't know what's in it now. I don't know what it looks like now.
Yeah, she's right. I agree. She's right. Well, I can tell you that it all needs to be renovated. The baseball field, both baseball fields, the bathrooms, the tennis courts, the basketball court, they all need to be renovated. Which is why we need a Parks and Recreation Department and
Also,
a director, and so they can write grants, because we're eligible for a lot of Parks and Recreation grants that would help renovate these things. Plus, we have some money in A&P Commission. We don't have a Parks and Recreation Department. Of course, we've, Mr. Franklin, we've submitted,
I was just asking.
we've
'Cause I
submitted.
know they used to be over there.
and we also, we don't want you all to think, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't want you all to think that this is the only time that we'll be utilizing the park, but this is what's coming up right now. Together for Hope has, we will have programs and different events throughout the year, and the park will be a great place to hold those events. And those bathrooms will be key. If we have bathrooms, we wouldn't worry about trying to find out, okay, who's gonna take care of the cost of porta potties each time we have an event. If we have some functioning bathrooms over there that can be locked and kept, we can utilize that park and have a whole lot of more events to get these kids out the street, to give them something positive to do in the community.
And just point out, we've done all that swimming pool with the help of the Health Foundation, Together for Hope. A lot of effort has gone long before I got to be mayor. A lot of effort has gone into that swimming pool. Mr. Womack has been a real champion of it. But during the pandemic, it was closed. Together for Hope and the other volunteers couldn't come. And the Helena-West Foundation couldn't fund it. So during that time, there was a tremendous amount of vandalism, graffiti and so forth. Mr. Womack is busy
Yes.
trying to get that cleaned up and get it all ready to go. We're all very excited that we're through at least those dark days, and we are able to reopen this pool. We're very excited. Together for Hope is back and going and strong again. We hope that we don't see a return to those pandemic days when we had to close down everything and people couldn't come and help and all that kind of stuff. So we're excited about that. We're excited about what you're doing in the park. Mr. Womack also works, he's the assistant director for the deputy director for the street department. And the director, Mr. Jones, knows about it. And I feel pretty confident that everything will be properly mowed in time. And hopefully, but if anything is not to your liking, or you have any issues with public safety, we'll also make sure that the police department shows up, and probably the fire department will too. And we're already trying to get it spiffed up a little bit and trying to get the basketball goals up again. And that's all over the city, not just there, and so forth. So we're trying to do our best with the means that we have. And we're really appreciative. I don't want you to leave this meeting, and I'm sorry about the bickering that goes on as part of this process, I guess. But the bottom line is our city is very grateful for what you do. We're very grateful for what you do every year. And thank you for what you're about to do this summer.
I'm familiar with Together for Hope because my grandbaby used to go to the swimming program, and I think that you ladies are on it, asking about that grass, because I can remember the kids trying to play soccer over there near the tennis courts, and the grass had been cut. Was so tall, the kids were still in the grass, knee deep, trying to play ball because it hadn't been raked or whatever. So I think that y'all will be on it. We'll report to somebody.
We will check. We will do a check in. We'll go by and check a week before camp, and if nothing has been done, we'll get in contact with the mayor. Is that who y'all want us to contact? Or I'll run into a council member or somebody and tell them, hey, the grass is not cut.
Thank you. Well, I'll be over there with a lawn.
Thank y'all.
We ain't
Thank-
through yet. We ain't got our motion.
Well, you don't need a motion, but thank you very much again for everything, and we appreciate your attendance tonight.
Good luck, and if I
Y'all,
can support you in
We
any way, let me
we
know.
look forward to seeing y'all and all the happy faces out there this summer. So thanks again.
Thank you all.
All right, the next item on the agenda, Mr. Spellman is not here. But we were going to try to bring it up anyway. It is the July the 4th Delta Cultural Center activities. Okay, Ms. Franklin moves adoption of the permit for the Delta Cultural Center for the April 14th, I'm sorry, I said July the 4th, I think, April 14th, 16th, 2023 event permit. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, Mr. St. Columbia, second the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Ford, Etherly,
Yes.
Davis. Yes. And Mr. Franklin said yes.
Motion passes. Okay, the next item on the agenda, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Franklin. It's a little bit out of order, but we try to let our guests go first if they've been invited. And Mr. Dunlap's in the audience. He's been asked to, he has actually spoken when you can come up, when we were on Zoom. So he has actually spoken before, but this is the first in-person meeting and he's been very patient. Mr. Franklin actually is handling this, so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Franklin.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the issue been going on. I have been working with Mr. Dunlap, but the mayor is the head of the city, so the mayor should know a little bit more than I do. But there's a ditch that the city owns that runs behind Mr. Dunlap's house. That a tree has fell over in it, has stopped the water flow through the ditch, and it's causing sewage to to run through it and can't pass through because it's a sewer line back there that the tree has fell on. Now, if you all remember in Oak Forest, the same thing happened. Am I correct, Mr. Dunlap? And Mr. Dunlap has gotten pushed around. Now, the mayor used his executive power or whatever he did and got that fixed. Mr. Dunlap is here tonight. It's been almost about 2 years, am I correct? That you have been fighting this issue. My issue is the mayor has spoken. He's gotten the city could get down and get this tree so that the sewer and the odor can stop. And so Mr. Dunlap can go outside and enjoy his property and the water can flow through. There's a water main that goes from right there where the swimming pool used to be, that runs back all the way around his house, past the old landfill, am I correct? So the mayor has, Mr. Dunlap been waiting, and is the city ditch. The city attorney is not here, but the city attorney did agree that that is the city's property, and the city should be responsible for it. I think, Mayor, have you gotten some of your people, like you got to clean out the Health Foundation? I mean, right behind here, I'll come back to that. But can we actually take care of Mr. Dunlap tonight? That is a city property. The city should take care of its property. You have a bid there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
We've had 3 bids. This is the lowest bid for $12,000.
Okay.
We're a little short of staff tonight, and I will get you copies of this if that's what we need. Or I can pass this around. But it's $12,000. It's the lowest bid out of 3. Newman Street just clean out, and it'll solve Mr. Dunlap's problem. And it has been bid out, so the bid waiver doesn't need to be done. So, and it's, and yes, let me not hesitate to say, this came up at the same time, if y'all will recall, as the issue over near Valley Drive.
Okay.
And we basically agreed in principle to do both projects, but the one off Valley Drive got done first because we weren't able to get the bids we were hoping to get from Newman Drive. So, but now we have, and that is the lowest bid.
So this is what I, Mr. Mayor, you have, this bid was done 5/11/2022.
It's still good.
I understand, but see, somebody scratched it out. It's quota valid for 30 days. My question is this: we could have handled this if this came in on a May 11th. We could have handled the first meeting of the month. So Mr. Dunlap didn't have to come here. But this is one of those things. This is one of those things that when can you get them here? Because
Well, again, I'm for doing this. I'll let you make the motion. That is I want you to see the estimate, of course. I'm sorry we don't have it. Copies. I guess I can run over and make them. I don't want to make you do it.
what I will say is this.
But other than that, I would say, within the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Probably.
Okay, so can I ask this question? Will these people be able to use the city equipment like the other guy you got to doing this work over here behind Bruce Hudson's house? That's cut the excavator that we bought for the water company.
I don't think the bid includes that now.
Well, I haven't even missed that. I moved that we accept this proposal for 11,000. Was it 11,000? 12,000 for whoever that. What's the name of the company?
Central Arkansas
Central,
Contractors.
as she has stated.
Second.
Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin may adopt approval of the low bid on the Newman Drive project as passed around to the council for $12,000. And there was a second by Mr. St. Columbia. Any questions or comments on the motion? If not, call the roll.
Franklin.
Yes.
Davis. Etherly,
Yes.
Ford. St. Columbia,
Yes.
Davis. 5 yes, 1 absent.
Motion passed. Do we need? So that'll do it. Yeah.
Ordinance.
Do you want to? We did bid it out. We don't need to waive bid, but Mr. Valley's on here and we don't have the usual ordinance with the emergency clause. So, I mean,
I just have.
I'll defer to you.
To me, Ms. Dunn, we good. I just have a question about just when the city does business like that we're doing. Mr. Anthony, the Helena Improvement District, right down the street here, the city has the excavator we bought, tore down some trees and the trees need to be cleaned up. And the excavator is now over here on College Street, pushing some trees in a hole in somebody's house.
It's just suspended for 1 second. Mr. Dunlap, I don't want to hold you. The motion saying it passed. I think what I'll do is ask Mr. Valley his opinion about whether we need to do an actual ordinance and come back and prove it again. I don't have any, real option there because we didn't have an ordinance prepared. I'm not exactly sure if we can move forward without one. And Mr. Valley is the one who would give that opinion. So I'm going to ask Mr. Valley on behalf of the council and myself, is that enough to move forward, or do we need to wait and come back with something? Is that acceptable to you? But it has passed.
Well, I appreciate
the motion.
I appreciate being here tonight, but I'm gonna tell you, I've been jacked around for 2 years. And this is a city ditch and it's causing snakes and mosquitoes. And when it rains, it floods my yard and it has gotten within 1 inch of my house. And it backs up all the way to Newman Drive and the intersection up there where you turn to go to the hospital, and floods that whole road and in front of all those other houses there. And I just don't understand why something that simple can't be addressed.
Well, in fact, now I'm excuse me, Mr. Franklin, hold on. Mr. Franklin, the issue was that the city engineer and the city attorney did not at the time were not able to determine at the time whether or not it was in the city limits and was a legal project for us to do. That was the issue. And Mr. Dunlap, that's what took so long.
Okay.
Now, that entire ditch has been like that for how many years? When you take a left on Newman Drive and you head towards your house, how long has that ditch been like that?
Well,
How long has it been like that?
for a long time.
How many
I couldn't
years?
say.
He
I
just
don't know.
moved, he
How
just moved
many
back
years?
here.
The thing of it is it stopped up and and I
I'm-
brought
I'm-
it to the attention of the city.
Right.
And if they'd have done it then, it would have been a minor thing, but the thing stopped up and then it started washing that big hill out and trees started falling.
But you understand why we can't do it if it's not yet been determined and it's questionable whether it's by the city
Well,
attorney.
I'm just glad that we're
Do you
getting
understand?
something done.
Do you
now.
understand that though?
Yes, I do.
The city, no, the city, it's not my money, it's the taxpayers' money.
I
So,
understand that.
Mr. Franklin, please, I'm trying to make a point. It's
Okay.
an
Well, I'm gonna
important
help you
point that public money can't be spent if it's not for that city, for this, in this case, the city
Okay.
that was levying the tax money. And the city attorney and the city engineer both had questions about whether this was in the city limits or considered city property. I could not legally move forward until they had agreed to that it was in the city. I just want to make sure you and anybody watching understands that I can't just go do something
Well, I
because I'm the
understand that.
mayor. I can't do it if the city attorney or the city engineer says it's not in city property.
I understand.
I
that.
am glad I was an advocate, as you know,
Right.
for 2 years that I thought it was because of the ditch issue. I felt like it was, and it turned out to be right. It turned out to be correct that it was. But that is the reason we can't improve property that's not in the city limits. And we had a disagreement amongst the people who make that decision about whether or not it was. And so now the motion is passed. Thank you, Mr. Franklin, for your leadership on the issue. The motion has passed. It's been seconded. It was approved. Mr. Valley will only discuss the question of the written ordinance and emergency clause, which is a legal issue about legal ordinances being approved for projects. And so, and if the council wants to correct me about that, feel free to.
I have one thing for you, man. Mr. Dunn, this is the only thing I had. The city used to run a landfill behind your house. Is that right? There's
Yeah,
land-
it was
there's
a
land-
treatment plant. It was a Helena treatment plant.
Right.
And,
So the treatment plant was the city's, right?
right,
So that ditch, you knew and I knew that the city owned that property back there, right?
at one time they did.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's their ditch. You can buy them, that's all I'm trying, they knew this. And it's
Absolutely.
like, you fix right around down here on the street, whatever street it is, they got a hell of an improvement ditch that they back there cutting right now that the city don't know nothing about. Use the city's $100,000 excavator that we didn't approve, but they can go over right down here, period extended, right behind a former council member's house, that they are use the city excavator that a contractor's using to tear down trees, and he didn't get the trees up. They moved the guy's truck, and the guy says transmission line in his truck. This administration did that. That's my thing, Mr. Dunlap. Take care of you just like you did those folks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dunlap. Thank you. We've done as much as we can do on it tonight.
Thank you. And
Thank you
I,
for coming down here.
I
Appreciate,
would like to say
appreciate
that
your,
I
appreciate your patience and your forbearance.
Well, no,
All right, the next
Miss
issue,
Ford came out and looked at the ditch.
Mr. Dunlap, thank you. We got to move on.
All right.
The next issue is redrawing city council. Here, Mr. Franklin, y'all need to listen to this, if you would. It involves you. The city council wards redistricting or redrawing of boundaries. As you know, there was a new census in 2020. The census results came out. They were somewhat delayed because of the pandemic and other reasons, and I don't think they're accurate, but they are what they are. Well, all I'm doing tonight, you don't have to do anything, is give you an update. The system that you used the last time you redistricted, which was after the lawsuit in 2018 or 17, is no longer being used. There's software by the state that's very good software. It's very impressive, and the state is helping us with 2 or 3 different options. What I need is for Mr. Valley to work with me and to basically approve moving these options forward to your consideration. My goal would be for the public to have the new district boundaries by a month before the filing deadline, which is the first week of August. So that would be the first week of July. So it is possible, if Mr. Valley and I and the state have, say, 2 or 3 options for you to look at, that we might have a special meeting on it. I just wanted tonight to give you an update tell you what the timeline looks like, make sure the public knows that. I will say, generally speaking, that it's not news that the city lost population over the last 10 years as it has the last 50. And so the ward lines will be moved. But I cannot tell you for sure in what direction or what difference the outcome would be compared to your wards currently, except that they're probably going to be larger wards because we lost population. So I just was wanting to update you on where that is. My goal would be that we get something to the public a month before the filing deadline, which is, I believe, the first week of August. So that would give 30 days to anybody who was interested in potentially running, and also give you time to have some input on it. So that's all I was going to do, Mr. Franklin, was to just give you an update.
Mr. Mayor, I do apologize that you wasn't here when the maps were drawn.
I was actually here. I was sitting back
Okay,
there.
That's it. I'll let you finish. Just listen to me. What we did, because we, thanks to Mr. Mundy and those people got out here and reduced the council. They told us that, because actually we can add 2 more seats because we went from 10 to 6 and we could have went to 10 to 8. So, Mr. Mayor, our map should be pretty much fine because we reduced the count, they did. So we got 6, and guess what? We fine. We did. Hold on, let me finish before you jump in. Ms. Ford, do you remember that?
We're on a time frame. I'm trying to.
There's
no action to take.
I'm
just advising you where it is.
Just like you were telling us, I was just trying to tell you that Ms. Ramsey, do you remember when the guy came in and told us that about we jumped ahead and did this before 2020? Said there's much you all would need to do. So in actuality, we can add 2 more seats because we went from 10 to 6, and we could have went to. He said you could have went 10 from 10 to 8. So guess what? Our wards don't have to be reduced. We can actually add 2 more people to the table. And do you all remember that, Ms. Davis, when he came? So so you wasn't here because.
No, actually, I was here. I was sitting out there. But my point is simply, this is a great discussion to have when you're talking about the work boundaries.
Like, why you cut everybody else off?
Because you're giving us
Because I'm telling you
discussion
the truth,
that needs to be had when you're discussing the actual
somebody
boundaries.
else want to run for
I
city
don't
council.
anticipate dramatic changes in the boundaries based on what I've been
But we
told
can
by
add
people
somebody.
that know more than I do. And I'm sorry, I don't know as much as you do, Mr. Franklin, but I do know what people who know more than I do tell me, and they don't expect a dramatic change unless the council chooses to do otherwise. That will be up to you. All I'm trying to do is tell you where it is in the process so you'll know. And make sure you understand where it is as well as the public.
Because I was just trying to like.
So, yeah, Mr. Franklin, I know what you're trying to do. Is there anything else? Do we have any other questions?
I want Mr. St. Columbia to be safe. I want him to be, because Mr. St. Columbia, the only person we have at the table. Well, let me finish, Joe. Because see, you can add somebody else. See, the way the wards are drawn, if it puts me against you, you remember how last time we had the discussion that if they put me, if they make the ward smaller and put me against you, they would out you. So we're fine. Do you remember we voted on? Well, because you couldn't put me on your best day.
All right.
But I'm just saying,
Thank you for that.
out of respect.
Thank you for that history lesson,
You don't run.
Ms. Franklin.
You
All
don't
right, we're gonna move on to the West Helena Water Office update. Let me do 2 things before we get to that, in case that's animated. The ARPA funds Rescue Act money for 2022. I was told today it should arrive in July, second, third week of July. I would hope that we could approve an appropriations for ARPA funds as agreed and as promised by the council sometime in the next meeting, so that when the money arrives, we don't waste a lot of time with it. As Ms. Ramsey could tell you, there are plenty of reasons and uses for that money that the city needs, and we don't need to waste a whole lot of time on it for things that we can do ahead of time, especially since you've already agreed to do it. But I'm just giving you an idea on the timeline there. The conflict agreements were passed out at the last meeting. Do y'all want to take any action on that tonight? Every year we have to approve we have to make a motion to approve any conflicts of interest that might exist between city employees or city employees and relatives and conflicts like that. And when we have 4 or 5, and we passed that out at the last meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Well, Mr. Valley is who prepared that, but it's not in your packet tonight. It was in the last packet. We just didn't get to it. So anyway, but Mr. Valley is who actually prepared it. So, and he's not here to discuss it. So we'll pass on. So that only leaves, I think, the West Helena Water Office update. All right, one of the most pressing issues, I think, in our city is the desire by many of our water customers to see, especially the drive-through window reopened at the Plaza Water Department office. Ms. Reba closed the office. She did not seek any kind of approval, permission from anybody. She just thought that it was unsanitary, unsafe, and she closed it. We have kept it closed until we could get some of the unsafe issues that we're concerned dealt with. The biggest issue is going to be the roof. The roof has been bad for a number of years, and it's caused a lot of water damage. I've inspected it, looked at it. It actually looks better than it has in a long time because if you remember, we had CID there. They're now at the bypass, much better situation. The records that were being kept there that were waterlogged and damp and mildew department on the bypass. So they're out. It looks a lot better than it ever has since I've been mayor anyway. So there is a quote. There have been 2 or 3 quotes, but we don't have them all for you tonight. I hope that especially the drive-through window can be reopened soon. It will not happen without your approval because it will cost over $5,000 to do it. We've had numerous bids on various aspects of it. To give you one example of just one bid, I'm not going to name who it is. It's almost $50,000. So it's an important decision. And we will address it soon. I'm just really letting you know because I would imagine your constituents are hearing about it. And it is important because most of our water users are in West Helena and they're used to using that facility. So I hope we can at least get the drive-through window reopened soon. That would be my goal. We've dealt with most of the mildew issues that caused the initial concern, but it does still leak when it rains, and that's not going to change unless we decide we want to step off and renovate that building. If we do renovate the building, it will be an excellent space for the city, but it's not cheap. So I'm just giving you an update on that. Ms. Davis has raised issues about speaking of that, the light at Plaza. Basically, the timing of the lights are not what they used to be. And that is a very unusual intersection at Sebastian and Plaza. And Mr. Charlie used to tell me that was one of the few in the whole state like that. So it was very difficult to use state regulated standards for the timing of the lights. And he had a particular formula pattern down. Unfortunately, Mr. Mills passed away, and we have not been successful at finding the formula that he used in the timing of those lights. So when Ms. Davis brought it to my attention, I spoke with Mr. Womack in the street department and Ms. Sandy and others. And what we have done is the state highway department is contracted with people who came in and dealt with all of our lights on Sebastian, McDonald's and Sonic, the Sonic light, and all the way down Sebastian to Plaza. The one on Plaza, because if you think about it, it's unusual. You have a very different intersection than the standard 4-way intersection. They adopted the state standards that Mr. Charlie used to talk about being not quite right for it. So he had to kind of trick it. but he was the only person that knew how to do that. And so they adopted the state standard. And right now it's not working out just right for motorists. And we're trying to figure out how to either get his formula or get somebody who can trick it again and figure it out like Mr. Charlie did. So Mr. Charlie's definitely missed. He was the one, Mr. Charlie Mills was the one who took care of all of our timing on our lights, not everything about the lights, but the timing boxes. And that particular box got struck by lightning a couple years ago. And it's been a problem ever since, but we sure missed Mr. Charlie. I just want to give you an update on that. We're trying to find a way to trick it like Mr. Charlie did, so it will be more intuitive for our drivers. And we appreciate the patience of our drivers. And I just wanted you to have that update. That's all I have. That's all we have on the agenda.
I move we adjourn.
I have, before we move to adjourn, I have one thing that I wanted to discuss. I know on this back page, it says that I requested some more information. I actually requested information about demolitions in the city, burnt houses. I know you mentioned at the last meeting, you said something that we were wasting time and we should be talking about tearing down houses. Well, I would like for us to put this on the next agenda, that we have a discussion on demolition, having an additional code enforcement officer if that's needed, and also where do we stand, what are we doing?
And
Because you said that that's something that we don't talk about, but I mean, since I've been sitting here, I don't remember you ever mentioning or bringing it up in a discussion about it, to even discuss it. I bring it up and some of the other council members bring it up because I guess because we live it, it's in our ward and it looks horrible. But I would like to have a discussion. I don't know if we need to do some
City
type of
tour.
work, something. Yeah.
City tour,
There you
because
go.
I was
Tour
in
would be
your ward
one
today and I
because-
saw the same thing.
Well, I would, Ms. Davis, I'd, respectfully disagree with you. I bring it up every time I ask this body to approve a fire marshal so that we can go after arson and arsonists, which is,
No.
and
Mayor, you do not.
I have brought it up
You
multiple.
have brought up a fire
Ms.
marshal
Davis,
because that's something that
it was
you want.
also said that I haven't brought up anything about the waiver of penalties. I brought it up several times when we talked. And every time it's the same thing. We haven't heard this before. I've talked about it. And it's been in every state of the city address. It's been one of my biggest priorities. And we've talked about it with ARPA funds. We've talked about it multiple times. However, having said that, I absolutely agree with you that we should have a bigger discussion about it. So let's make that at the top of the agenda. And
Thank you, but you cannot sit here and say that you have brought up the structures that I live around, the structures that maybe Mr. Franklin or Ms. Ford live around, or Mr. Ethan. You can't say that we've had conversations or you've been bringing it up. We bring it up, but we don't have conversations about it. We hit in the midst and keep running.
Come on, Ms. Davis.
Ms. Davis, are you aware of what we're doing with West Side School? Which is in your, I didn't ask you, Mr. Franklin. I'm asking
I'm aware that
Ms.
it's a
Davis
pro-
because it's in her neighborhood.
I'm aware that it's a process.
Yeah.
And it's been taken,
And we have brought it up as well as Mr. Valley has many times
it's been
at
brought up.
this table.
It's
It
been
is
brought
one
up.
of the biggest sections of blight in your neighborhood, and we have worked hard. I have personally been working hard on it for 3 years to try and get that property demolished and cleaned up for your neighborhood. So all I'm saying, I'm not criticizing you. I don't understand why I should be criticized for things that I don't feel are true. Maybe you weren't at the meeting. Maybe you don't recall it. That's fair. I'm not wagging my finger at you, but every single meeting I'm criticized for, we never heard that before. That's not true. I've spoken about it. It was one of the first meetings I had as mayor in this room. And one of the first things we did as mayor was a list of demolitions. And one of the first lawsuits I got was over a demolition that we did for $300,000 against me because I demoed the house after we approved it here. We've talked about it multiple times, but mostly we've talked about it because we need to do something about arson. And we will put it at the top of the agenda. But I'll also ask for the fire marshal position to be brought up again, because until we stop the burning, it will continue. We can get down to maybe 40 a year. That's if the state cooperates with us, which is something we'll talk about.
We're getting down 40 a year.
Maybe. If the state has now gotten more involved, but if the state allows us. But last year alone, we lost over 130 houses to fires. So
I understand that. It's
we
been
have
longer than
to-
that, and they're just sitting there.
But we
And then
have,
when they burn down, they just sit there. All that crumble is just still sitting there. Who actually wants to live next to that? That's my
nobody, and it's not
issue.
just in your neighborhood. It's all over the city. It's almost in every neighborhood. It's been a problem and a challenge for this community for many years. And what I've been told by three fire chiefs now, is that we won't be able to resolve it until we stop the burning and the fires, and we won't be able to stop that until we show that you can get in trouble for arson, serious trouble, and serious people will investigate it and follow through. And we don't have the capacity to do that without a fire marshal. And that we've been addressed by the fire chiefs, at least two, about that issue. It's part and parcel of the issue, because if you want to cut out the lung cancer, that's one thing, but you also probably should stop smoking cigarettes if that's causing the lung cancer. We need to talk about what's causing it, not just, and then there's the legal process, and Mr. Valley can discuss that better than I can, but it is private property. And if and we still don't have it torn down.
Woodruff.
So the attitude that and let me say, and I'm not wagging my finger at anybody, because I am Caterpillar Tractor and start mowing down houses willy-nilly. That can't happen. It's America. People have a right to due process, and they have private property. And sometimes you can't even find the owners of the property. So what do you do in that case? And those issues are definitely council issues, because they come up to code issues. What are our codes? What should we do to make them better? And that's a great issue for the council that I do think deserves a lot of discussion. And if you'll remember, maybe you don't know, we entered into an agreement with an urban planning association that had a grant, a large grant, and they offered to help us redraw our codes so that we can better enforce them, because we have really weak enforcement. And all they asked for was city council participation. They ended it because they didn't get it. They got one council member to participate one time. And you can ask that question at the next meeting. Why didn't I know about it? How come I wasn't invited? I was told you were all invited. I was told there was no interest in participating in it. And for the lack of interest by the city council, they pulled out of our town and decided not to make us part of their grant program. And that's a big disappointment to me, because that's one of the issues we need to address is code revision. So, yeah, I've been talking about it for 3.5 years. We'll put it at the top of the agenda. Ms. Ford was one of the city council members, if I remember correctly, who did discuss or communicate with that group, but was the only one. Ms. Ford.
Thanks for asking for this report. Whoever did a good job. Again, as long as I've been sitting here, I've gone through 5 or 6 code enforcement officers. Every time that somebody comes out, except for this new person, I take them my pictures in the phone. There are houses that have been falling down or whatever, and they're still there. There's one on the corner of Columbia and what is it, Columbia and diagonally across from the Allen store. A tree has grown up in it, a big tree, and everything, and nothing has been done. And I know it's been at least 6 years. I want to ask if there's any way that we could have something like this and discuss it at least 15 or 20 minutes in the second meeting of each month. I mean, we need to start working and being aware of whatever, having something on some of these things like water issues and that type of thing, and especially code. Do you think that that is possible? That we could do that?
It's not only possible, I think it's a great idea. So I'm glad you like this. I'll let the code officer know that you do. And it was Ms. Davis who I think requested it. So,
Yeah, thank you.
so sure, I'd be more than happy to. And then just make sure we.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
But it would be, I think it'd help move the discussion along when we send these out, and we do, I think once a month or twice. a month. Can't remember. Second meeting of the month, we send these out with your packet. They are very good, and I read them before they go out.
If some of the other departments, I was getting the water, but if you, but I know.
Now,
you-
they have been giving out lists,
Yeah, but
you requested that already, they've been giving out lists.
Well, I hadn't gotten it for a while, but I think maybe they need to come to you so that
If
you.
you haven't,
This-
I'll make sure. and send that to the
I'm
water
sorry,
department
this
if you haven't
format
yet.
or something like it, and they don't have anybody to do them for them. They're mostly handwritten and light color or pencil, because when I copy them from you, they're, so I'm wondering if you could, was there anyone that you could help facilitate that and make sure that we get a legible copy, and that we put that on the agenda for a couple of minutes, each meeting. Not each meeting, but,
This right here, or I misunderstood something.
the water.
The list of water,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I'll ask them to put that in a computer format for you, sure.
And I had one thing before.
And we'll try to conclude that. You want to include it as the same item, Ms. Ford?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was notified that a house was, that you all set a house on fire. The city burned the house and it had asbestos and people gotten sick. So have EDAQ been in touch with you about that? Because I'm pretty sure you were out
Well,
of
you said some things that weren't accurate, but I have spoken to ADQ.
Yeah, but you burned the house they burned the house with asbestos in it. That's why EDAQ contacted you.
That's the
So-
comment you're making. I'm not.
You're not gonna tell people the truth, but that's how I found out about it, because they called the wrong person.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but
Well,
based on your comment, you don't know the truth either.
Well, you
But
don't
I'm not
need
going to comment
but
on
you-
it.
but-
I'm
but-
not going
but
to comment
as a
on it.
council, we should know what's going on.
I'll
You
let-
burned the
I'll-
house. The
We
city
burned-
burned the
we-
house.
The city has burned
The
a lot of
city-
houses.
Yeah, but just like we
And,
got caught up when you tore down Miss Boyd's house right here, it had asbestos in it. When you do things.
Well, actually, you voted in favor of doing that, I think. That
I
was
wouldn't
something.
even hear.
Well, the council voted in
So,
favor of tearing down.
It shouldn't be a full teeth thing.
Mr.
Mayor.
Franklin,
Let
Mr.
me
Franklin,
finish
that was
saying-
one of the first meetings I was talking to about Mr. Davis. One of the very first meetings I had, you voted
I
to
wasn't
tear down
here.
that house, and I was sued
I wasn't
because I did
here
so
the night you
at
did
the
that.
direction and approval
So,
of the council.
I
So
was
be
not
careful
here.
what you say.
So you be careful what you say. I'm just saying, stop getting so want to fight. I just said what we did,
I
what you
wanna
did.
fight.
I mean,
I
because
want to fight.
I want to be nice to you. I move we adjourn. Ms. St. Columbus getting impatient. It's time for us to go. I move we adjourn.
Ms. St. Columbia already had the motion. on the
Second, let's
floor.
go.
Mr. Franklin seconds the motion.
Hold on.
Are there any questions? If not, without Ms. Ford, I'm sorry.
Prior to that, we won't get into these things. If we can, someone's gone in and inspected and says that there's asbestos in the house, then we know that we have to, what we have to do to tear it down.
There is a process, and we can discuss that when we discuss them. Absolutely. Meetings are, thank you.